Welcome to Baddie, a monthly podcast by For the Breast of Us, the first breast cancer community for all women of color, where we share real-life experiences, information, and education to help you live your best life after a breast cancer diagnosis. Welcome to Baddie. Welcome to Baddie.
Hey, I am Naya Kite. I was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer in 2019. This unexpected obstacle taught me to find the magic in every day.
Hola Baddies, this is Natasha Vega, your Baddie ambassador coming all the way from New York City. I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer on September 11, 2020. Lots has changed and lots to talk about. Wanna talk? Let's do this.
Hey Baddies, I'm Ginny, the OG Baddie ambassador, Asian Baddie, and resident funny lady over here at For the Breast of Us. I was diagnosed in 2019 at the age of 41 with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma and underwent a bilateral mastectomy without breast mound reconstruction and some chemo and radiation. I'm coming to you from colorful Colorado, ready to chat with some baddies.
Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Miss Ebony, aka Miss Hustling Hills. And as of December 2018, I am a MBC baddie. And I'm out here changing the face of breast cancer one stiletto at a time.
Hey baddies, it's Tan, a baddie ambassador representing for all my flatty baddies and early thrivers. I currently reside in Georgia, but I'll always be repping the Lou. In September 2020, a month after my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with stage 2 ER/PR positive, HER2 negative, invasive ductal carcinoma and ductal carcinoma in situ. Are you guys ready to join in on this chat? Well, come on in and grab seats.
Hey everyone, my name is Naya, a breast cancer survivor, and I'm joined with Baddie ambassadors Ebony, Ginny, Natasha, Han, and Thriver Natalia today. Since this is a large group, let's start off with a quick introduction of everyone. Please tell the audience your name, age of diagnosis, type of breast cancer, and the breast reconstruction option you chose. And I will go first. I was diagnosed at age 31 with stage 2B breast cancer, ER/PR positive. And I had to have a unilateral mastectomy because I was pregnant, so I didn't have another choice. Ebony, I'll kick it off to you.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's Ebony. When I was diagnosed, I was 37. At my time of diagnosis, I was already metastatic. I was already metastatic several different places. But I have yet to go under any kind of reconstruction. So I'm glad I'm on here so you all can tell me what I'm up against.
Kicking it to you, Ginny.
Hi, y'all. Excuse me. I'm having a hot flash here. This is Ginny. I was an early stage survivor. I was diagnosed at 41 years old a few years ago. It's pretty standard vanilla breast cancer, hormone positive, HER2 negative. And I opted to not have any reconstruction, although I kind of hate saying that. I had flat reconstruction. So I don't have any breast mounds currently. And I don't have any plans to change that.
Kicking it off to Natasha.
Hey, y'all. So I was diagnosed at 36, triple positive. What I decided to do was to have the lumpectomy, and both options were given to me But, I think it's one of those things where for me, I just decided that was, that was the right choice for me. And I think that the great thing about this conversation is that there's not a one size fits all. There's many different options and many different solves for different people. And so I'm excited to talk to you ladies about it.
Kicking it to you, Tan.
Hello, everyone. I was diagnosed at 30, and same as Ginny and Naya, ER/PR positive, stage 2B. And me and Ginny are flat sisters. So as of right now, I don't plan on changing it. But I mean, you never know.
And Natalia.
Hey everyone, I'm Natalia. I have metastatic breast cancer. I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer in 2017 and became MBC in 2019. I had 2 reconstructions. I had a double mastectomy and I ended up with implants because during my timeline of whether I was going to do reconstruction or not, I progressed. So I had to get my expanders swapped out for implants. But I actually ended up doing a deep flap this January. So I'm actually really happy with my decision. And yeah, that's it now.
Welcome you all. I'm glad that you all are here and sharing the many options of reconstruction and willing to talk about body image today. We are going to jump in right to these questions, and I just want to remind you all that this should be a free-flowing conversation, so just jump right in when you feel like chatting. What was the main reason you chose the reconstruction that you did? And why?
It's Natalia here. I'd be happy to go first if that's okay.
Yeah.
I kind of settled for implants, and I thought that when I got the implants that I would just be done with surgeries. But because I had radiation done on one of my breasts, it became really painful to have an implant in on my radiated side. So I just thought I'm going to go in a other way, either go flat closure or deep flap, which are 2 very different things. The flat closure would have been a lot simpler, but it's kind of weird to be in this stage of breast cancer, like in this breast cancer community, and like choose to do a deep because there are a lot of things that are involved where if you're not familiar with the procedure, they move abdominal fat and tissue from your abdomen over into your breast area. And it's a long surgery. It's an over 8-hour surgery. And you have to be in the ICU for a night and in the hospital for about 3 days, 2 to 3 days. And it wasn't easy, but there is, I always call it vanity, but people are like, it's just what you want. The idea of using abdominal fat and getting that out was really appealing to me. I'm a plus size girl. I thought, it'd be really nice to kind of have a slimmer waist and use that abdominal fat. And I felt a lot of shame about that for a long time, but obviously the breast cancer community is really supportive, and everyone goes through a different reconstruction, right? No one's one reconstruction's the same. And I got a lot of support and people saying like, just do what makes you happy and do what you want to do. So I just went with that. And I'm really happy that I did because my radiated side was hurting me and it was really uncomfortable, but having the tissue transfer means I have like squishy boobs now and I can feel things that I didn't have before that I can do with my implants. And so it makes me really happy that I made the decision, even though the recovery was long.
Thank you for sharing more about what deep flat is. And I'm so glad that you were able to follow your heart and make a choice that made you happy, because often in the community we hear that people didn't know all of their choices. I'm really glad you were able to do that. Thank you.
I think another thing that I love about what Natalia was talking about is, we women often have so much pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way, right? So you're already coming in with these, ideals that you're trying to achieve, or that you're looking towards. And I think when breast cancer comes in, it really makes you rethink what beautiful is, and what beautiful is to you. And so I really love this idea of just kind of redefining what that looks like, in the middle of something, obviously, that none of us expected to have. But I think that part, I think it's super interesting, Natalia. Thank you for sharing that.
I got a question. So, Natalia, how long was your recovery?
So it's kind of a tricky question. So the recovery is normally 6 weeks. And I don't want to like send you all to my TikTok, but my TikTok, during my process, I went through each of my recovery stages, and telling them sharing my process of how it went. But you spend 3 days in the hospital because the surgery is so specific and so complicated. Literally, they're taking vessels from your abdominal skin and your fat and your muscle. They don't take any muscle, and they're connecting it to another vessel where your breast is. And so they want to make sure that that vessel is pumping blood and feeding your new skin and your new implant area. It's getting the amount of blood that it needs to be healthy tissue and keeps growing. So with a DIEP flap, just like regular breasts, they will fluctuate in size if you gain or lose weight. It literally becomes a new breast again. And so the recovery time is 6 weeks, where like you can't pick anything up heavy or do any of those things because of your sutures from having your abdominal stuff removed and put into your breast area. And then it slowly progresses from there. I shouldn't say progress. It slowly gets better from there. It's really painful at the beginning, and it's uncomfortable just because you're not used to being so tight on your stomach. And then if anyone's ever had like maybe a C-section, I would compare it to that. That's what it feels like. And it's not like you don't use binders like you do when you have a mastectomy. You have to really like baby the tissue that has just been implanted. So while you're in the hospital, every hour for the first night on the dot, someone comes in and they take a little echo machine and make sure they can hear that new vessel pumping blood into the tissue. So that's the really grueling part about being in the hospital. It's not like a relaxing time or anything, unless you can sleep through that. But someone is coming to check your breast tissue every hour to make sure that they can hear good vessels pumping the blood through. And so that kind of sucks being at the hospital. But after 6 weeks, it's good if you heal. I did catch an infection, which required me to do, I had to get one of those, I can't think, but a tissue like vacuum where they take out all the infection by vacuum out and like sucking out the infection. And that kind of was like just a little bothersome because I had to carry a pack with me. But if you're healing well, it takes 6 weeks. If not, it could be longer. I got my DIEP flap in January, and by the time April came around, I was still dealing with the infection and my sutures healing. I shouldn't say suture, just the part that got infected. But my breast stuff was like perfect. Like that healed really quick in those 6 weeks. But yeah, like it's no joke either. I know a lot of people like the idea of like flipping your flap into, or flipping your tummy into new breasts, which is awesome. But yeah, it's the most invasive reconstruction that you can get is getting a flap or a lap flap or any of those, because they're using real tissue and putting it somewhere else.
That's one of the reasons why I was like, no, I don't want to do it. Like the idea of getting your stomach smaller is what they was comparing it to, like a tummy tuck. That's what my doctor compared it to. And, we gain weight during chemo and radiation and all these hormonal medications that we're on. I was like, it sounds good. But then I have to think about me. I'm a single mom. And do I honestly want to be out for 6 weeks, like not being able to do anything? Like, because my children, they work 4 when I was diagnosed, and then, you know, they were turning 5 the next year. So it was a lot. I had to think about what's best for me in my situation. And that's ultimately why I decided to stay flat, because I couldn't do that. Like, that's a long recovery, and it's not just one surgery that goes into the flap. Like, it's multiple ones. Like, I've talked to so many people when it came to that one, because I already had said no to implants, because the idea that I have to massage them for the rest of my life and get them changed every like 10 years. And then like you can get implant syndrome. I don't even know what it's called, but yeah, I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't no. Yeah. What's the other options that I have?
That's why I was kind of debating going from either just a flat closure to a deep, because I didn't want the implants. I had the implants, and they just didn't suit me, and it was really uncomfortable for me.
That's what I've heard so many people say. They were just super uncomfortable.
It's usually just the radiated side. My other side wasn't, that didn't have, you know, the breast cancer or radiated, but it was the other side. And it's no joke. It took me 3 years to settle on a deep, you know, like, because I'm stage 4, I kind of put those options aside. And I told myself, like, if I don't progress in 1 year, you know, and I'm healthy, then I'm going to go ahead and go through the option I want, either flat closure or deep flap. And thank goodness, you know, I didn't progress for a year and a half, and I went through the surgery. A bummer. I mean, I ended up progressing anyways this year, but at the time I was healthy. And yeah, so I could see like how people would decide to go for a flat closure, because it's the least complicated way to go. The recovery time is the shortest recovery time. And, you know, I can imagine it would feel good. I remember getting my mastectomy and not having my expanders filled yet. And I just thought, like, this is cool. I could sport this way. And I didn't think like it made my clothes look different, or, you know, I had a big breast before I got a mastectomy. And so it was relieving a little bit to have nothing there for a while.
I had to adjust because I had really big breasts too. So I was like leaning, and my therapist was like, no, you have to sit up. So I was like used to like slouching a little bit, because my breasts were like a G. And I'm a little small person at the time. And I was way smaller with huge breasts, and I was like, okay, now they're gone. I don't know how to feel about this, but I still go back and forth like mentally, because I'm battling a lot mentally right now. Yeah. Between like, is this what I want to be for the rest of my life in regards to like being flat closure, or if I do want to go ahead and get the flat surgery, because I have my moments where I'm like, I don't feel cute, or I'm looking in the mirror like, I miss that. Or I look at other women, I'm like, I wish I had that. So,
yeah. Ginny, I'm going to ask you to jump in here, because you are the OG flat baddie. I remember when I had my mastectomy, you were like the first flat baddie I saw on Instagram. So can you explain a little more about this flat closure that Tan and Natalia have been referencing?
Sure. I do. Just one thing, and maybe we can circle back to this, as Natalia was talking about the deep flap. I think it's interesting that everybody knows what the deep flap is, but there are other flap options out there that people don't necessarily know about, like a lat flap, which comes from your back. There's the tram flap, which is your inner thighs. Because when I was initially diagnosed, and you go and you meet a plastic surgeon, I didn't have enough abdominal fat to be able to qualify for a deep flap, possibly. But then, you know, through research, I met some other women who had done like tram flaps or different kinds of flaps as well. But anyway, back to my plastic surgeon conversation. I was fortunate because I was offered all of these different options. First, we talked about, you know, the possibility of implants and the different kinds of implants. And then we talked about flaps and a few different kinds of flaps. And then there was a comment about flat closure. You know, as I was getting ready to leave, he was talking about, you know, and sometimes I never see the women again who come through here because they decide to go flat, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that kind of sticks in my mind because my original intent was never to be flat. But similar to tan, once I finished my treatment, because I wanted to be, healthy before I made any decisions about reconstruction, since I had been living flat for so long, it was kind of a no-brainer. My oncologist asked me like, oh, when are you going to go back to the plastic surgeon? My radiologist was like, oh, you can go back to your plastic surgeon after X months. And, I never saw Dr. Bradall again. And I'm perfectly happy the way that I am. I don't see myself changing my mind. I did start out with relatively small breasts as a part of the itty bitty titty committee. So they were never like a huge part of my identity. But that's not to say that I don't miss my breasts. Right. And I think that, the grass is always greener, right? I look at some of like a couple of my friends have had amazing, gorgeous work done, like either implants or deep. And I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I could have that. They look amazing. But it's always a fleeting thought for me. I don't want to do the surgery. I don't want to do the recovery. And frankly, being flat is very much a part of my identity at this point in time as well. And I've been playing a little bit with prosthetics lately too. And it's kind of fun because it's like putting a hat on, right? Like, what size boobs do I want to have today? I'm just gonna, okay.
That is a plus too, Ginny. It is.
And I'm plug myself real fast. I did do a reel today because when it's freaking hot, right? It's hot everywhere. And one good thing about being flat is no boob sweat.
Yes.
No like flaps or anything.
No boob sweat.
No.
Yes. Thank you for sharing all those options, because when I went to speak to my oncologist and my surgeon, I did not learn of any of these options. The only thing they told me is, I'm pregnant. You're pregnant. You can only have flat closure. And I really wanted a double mastectomy. And I was told no, because I couldn't be under anesthesia too long. And at this point, I wouldn't go get the other side. I also feel like being a unilateral mastectomy baddie has become my identity too. And I also like not wearing bras. And I don't have to think about it. And I'm part of the itty bitty titty committee too. So it doesn't look that much different.
Honestly, no one knows the fact that I don't have breasts. I think it's just me that knows that I don't have breasts. When you go see somebody on the street, they're like, oh, wait, you don't have any breasts? I'm like, yeah, I'm flat. Like, there's nothing there. Like, no one really notices it.
Natasha, can you jump in and talk a little bit more about the reconstruction type you chose?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so when I got diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, it was funny because, no one in my family had I didn't have any breast cancer history. And so I went into the doctor and I was like, get rid of both of them. That means not going to chemo and radiation. Just like, get rid of them. Like, I was like very matter of fact at that moment. And then the doctor laughed and she was like, well, regardless of that, you still have to do chemo and radiation. And I was like, oh, damn. And so, but I'm happy that it kind of gave me that time to think about it. And so when I finished chemo and I did my surgery, they said to me, well, you don't, we didn't find any cancer in your lymph nodes, even though they did take out some. So it's really your choice, right? We can't promise you, I can't give you a definitive answer of you getting it again or not because of the, the decision you make. And so for me, being so like type A, I was hoping to go back to the doctor and the doctor tell me, okay, here are the results. Here's what you have to do, which is very similar to when I went in on my first consultation. They were like, you have to do chemo, you have to do radiation. I was really hoping they would tell me what to do. And that wasn't the case. And so they were like, here are the things that we know, and it's really up to you. And so for me, I had a breast reduction 10 years prior. So the idea of scars really didn't scare me, because I have scars all over my breast from my reduction. But I felt at that point I had, you go through so many treatments and weight gaining and this and that I, not getting that definitive, if you take them, if we do a double mastectomy, here is the higher chance of X then, or lower chance. Like that to me was the key moment where I said, you know what, I'll do the lumpectomy. At the end of the day, I really understood that my journey with breast cancer was not going to end regardless of the decision I would make. And so I needed to come to terms with that reality, that breast cancer was going to be a part of my life regardless of the decision that I was going to make. And so I decided to do a lumpectomy. But I would lie if I didn't say that sometimes I wonder, like, did I make the right decision? Did I not? The what ifs.
Yeah. I think we all still wonder that what if, though. Like, even it don't matter the reconstruction we go through, is like, what if I would have did that? Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's like, regardless of the decision you make, that fear is always gonna be instilled no matter what. And so I decided with a lumpectomy, which is what I proceeded with, and I'm really happy with the decision I made. I do feel like it did put a lot of the things of like body image that I was already really like self-conscious about with my body and all that. It put it just even more to the forefront. It's a never ending journey.
That's something too, I think that people can think about is, even if you make one decision, there's nothing stopping you from making a different one too. Okay. So I might be wrong, so your producer might need to fact check this a little bit, but because of Obamacare, the expansion of Medicaid expanded people to get reconstruction surgery. I think before there was a time limit of how long that took, but now there's no time limit when someone needs reconstruction and how much reconstruction that covers. So insurances are forced to pay it. So insurance can't deny you of a reconstruction option because of Obamacare. That came out right in 2014 is when it expanded. And so I was grateful that when I had implants, I got implants because at the time I had tissue expanders and I had them in for almost a year. And my plan was to wait a year and a half to go back and decide what type of reconstruction I was going to do. But if you guys remember, or if you've had tissue expanders, they're like little magnets at the end of them. So they can, when you go to the doctors, they connect a different magnet so they know where to puncture your expander to fill them up with air. Because of the expander, I wasn't able to get all the scanning I need. I couldn't go through an MRI machine. And so I had to make a quick decision to either go flat or to get implants at the time so I could get those extra scans. And so that's when I got implants. And I thought I would be happy with them. But thankfully, because of this expansion and because there's not a limit of the type of reconstruction I can get, or even if I want to change it, that insurance will cover that expansion or your reconstruction that you want to do. Just the same as like my breasts aren't exactly, they're not identical. One of them is slightly bigger than the other. And so I can do like fat grafting now and go in and or have a part of my breast removed so they're more symmetrical. And my insurance isn't allowed to deny me coverage for those types of things. So we're lucky living in an age where we have options continually.
Well, we do right now, anyway. It's actually
exactly right now we have
and
that
Natalia's correct. This was in 1998, the Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act. It covers all reconstruction costs. It should also cover lymphedema sleeves. It also covers prosthetics. It also covers mastectomy bras. It also Does not cover wigs, though, I don't think. So if your insurance denies you any of that, they legally cannot do that right now. So Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act, just FYI.
Thank y'all.
Ebony, I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
So what's going on with your reconstruction? Like, or I know you were mentioning like you're in that stage where you're trying to decide like what are the doctors giving you your options? What are
So
your options?
my doctors really haven't given me like a big selection. That's why I'm glad I'm amongst some people that can. I'm like, because my friend said, look, this is what she got. I think I'm like, stop talking to your friends. But anyway.
That's who you need to talk to, because we're the ones that went through it, not them.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, honey, I go in with a whole notebook. They probably get tired of seeing me. But so with my situation, when the cancer was in the left breast, so just so happened it was trying to come out. So a lot of people actually think that I had a mastectomy, but it was actually coming out. Like you could
see it.
Crazy. You could see it.
That's how mine was. It was like
like it was coming, it was starting to come out, like it had started bleeding. It was just really gross. But unfortunately, I saw in the hospital, I saw an infectious disease doctor, and they were like, okay, put this cream on it. It's going to help, the process or whatever. And then actually infect it, which opened up a hole right here on the left breast. So the left breast is probably it's literally non-existent at this point. So I walk around, I have a shirt that my kids got me because I had to laugh in order to get through it, because I had big breasts too. At one time I was an F. You know what I mean? I think the lowest I've ever been since my son, and I had my son at 17, I had my son at 18, was a double D. So hey, I've always had girls. And so we called myself the one city wonder because I only have one. And so it has been an adjustment physically because I'm used to looking in the mirror and having two. You know what I'm saying? So I went through a whole thing and it's still, for a whole year, I wouldn't look in the mirror because this is not, to me, I didn't feel like a woman. You know what I mean? And so trying to decide, hey, is the flat life for you, or, this is the first time being in a group, knowing what a deep flap is, because nobody has ever explained that to me. You know what I mean? And I didn't there's no way I would have Googled what deep flap is, if you know what I mean. So I'm in between, do I want to just be forget it, I don't want to deal with the boob, because when I do have my hot flashes, only having to wipe under one boob is better than wiping under two. But I still, I have prosthetics because, well, I kind of just almost have to, because I got one good boob and no boob on it. From if I do one of these motions and turn around, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to figure out what's best for me, and what's best for me mentally.
Yes.
Because it's one thing, with my hair, I've always loved short hair. You know what I'm saying? I always loved my short hair. Now, wigs, I can be any person, but my body is something totally different. And being single and hopefully one day being married, is he going to be, able to accept the fact that, hey, your potential wife has one boob? You know what I mean? And my friends are like, oh, well, he'll love you, for, who you are and all that kind of stuff. I said, but we got to get to that point. Physically, when he see me out, I got on clothes and I got my little prosthetics in, and I look good. But when I come up out of that,
Mm-hmm.
he gonna be scared. Like, girl,
Mm.
when I saw you, you had two. Now you only got one. What's what it is?
Yeah.
So, like I literally had like a whole meltdown with my best friend talking about it, because it's just like, what do you do? Like, what's the best option? And granted, like my kids are a little bit older, but I still have two small ones. I'm very active in my church. I'm very active within my business. So being down for 6 weeks, is that gonna be okay for me? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and do I want to go the whole, the breast implant route? You know what I mean? Is that's what's best? Or so right now it is like really up in the air, but listening to everybody is giving me a better outlook, because it's one thing to read about it,
Yeah.
but I've never met all of you in person, but I feel like I know you guys and you're giving your honest opinion, so I can trust you all better than a ther than a
Yeah, doctor.
than a doctor, because you just want to get paid. That's how I
Yeah.
feel.
I want to tap back into this idea of mental health, but I wanted to comment on what you're talking about the partner. So
Yeah.
when I had my unilateral, I was with somebody, and it was already bad enough to like look in the mirror myself. Like I couldn't even look at my own self in the mirror.
Yeah.
But when I would go out, and I still get this now because I don't wear bras, strangers, like they stare at my chest. And I just like, hello, how are you? To see if they'll say something. And I remember this one lady, I was carrying something in my hand. She was like, oh, I'm just staring at your flower. It's so beautiful. The flower was above my head. This woman was looking down here and just like made an excuse. But my then partner at the time, I remember we were having sex and he couldn't even look at me. And I just like, that was kind of for me, like one of the things that was like, that's the end. Like, cause he can't accept me for having one breast. Like it means that much to him to see two, even though they're tiny anyway.
But that's what I wanted to talk about too, Naya. I wanted to ask y'all, because I'm single and I wanted to see, like, I know a lot of women they're either married or they're in a relationship or they're going into a new relationship. I wanted to see like how the reconstruction, affected them mentally and also affected their relationship with their significant other as well.
I think that's a great question.
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know when you tell the guy that you have no nipples or boobs. Like when does it come up in the conversation?
Yeah.
You know?
It's such a hard part too, because when I had breasts, that was an enjoyable part of sex, was having boobs and that sensation and nipple sensation. And it was really hard to lose. And I've been married a really long time. And at the time I thought, like, my husband's really into my boobs, like that's really cool. And, just the way we had sex involved a lot of breast. And so it did really change the dynamic of how we were approaching sex after that, because I would want to be in a bra more than having just like no nipple, like having no nipple showing. And I just, especially at the time when I had implants, it was really uncomfortable if he was to grab the radiated side because it was so tight. So it did, like, and it's a bummer. Like if you have a good thing going on and you're hooking up, and it's good. It sucks to lose a part that you enjoy in sex, for it to be gone. But the best advice I got from anyone, when it came to like sex and like losing the autonomy of your body, was from someone who's part of the LGBTQ community. I'm in a BIPOC Marco Polo support group, and the person who was telling us, like, people should be doing sex from a queer perspective. They're like, cis people really limit themselves on how to have sex or how they enjoy pleasure, like a sexual relationship with their partners. Whereas people in the LGBTQI community, or I should say IA community, are like approaching sex differently, because you might have a partner that's trans, you might have someone that's same sex, you might have someone that, you know, is asexual, you know, all of these things. And I thought that really changed my sex life with my husband when we kind of talked to each other about, like, you know, maybe we should approach sex differently, or we should try something different instead of what we were doing before all this cancer crap started happening. So I don't know if that's helpful or anyone else, but, you know, breasts aside, you know, your whole body image, because you're, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of people are, the way they have sex changes, or it becomes non-existent. And that also affects your body image, right? Like, to not you feel, it could make you feel unwanted if you're not having sex, you know? And so that has been really helpful advice to me, to be like, you know what, maybe we need to come at it at a different angle, like, no pun intended, but, you know, just to, that way we can make sure that, you know, we my spouse and I can connect in a way that we were connecting before, but just differently. So I don't know if that's helpful for people who are single now too, and maybe finding a partner that is more open to that than the ones that, you know, they just want big booties and big boobs, you know, then maybe looking for someone who's a little open-minded about that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Naya, did that, like you were speaking about that, does you being a uni when you were in a relationship, like, and I kind of cut you off, I apologize. So how did it go after that? Are you still with the guy? Are you single?
No.
Like, did it was it because of the fact that you had just one breast? Did that like affect the relationship even more? Because I know it's a lot that goes into relationships.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was early on after I finished recovery. And for me, I just didn't want to have sex with him anymore because I felt so unwanted. And I didn't want to, I'm not the type to like force you to want me.
Yeah.
You don't want me or you don't want, or you don't. But I feel like my body image has improved. My best friend told me when I told him I couldn't look in the mirror, he was like, what would you tell your daughter? Ooh. And I was like, that's say one nice thing to herself every day until she believed it. And so he was like, you need to do that. And
I love that.
That has built my self-confidence myself. So when I got out of the relationship, I don't even care anymore. Like when guys are looking at me, I'm like, you're going to know ahead of time that I am a uni because I'm probably wearing tight clothes. You see one nipple sticking out and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking down the street, sassing. Like, okay, I don't care because I feel really good about myself now.
That's
yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Naya? Because I think what you said is super powerful. How did you get to that level of self-love? Because I feel like we could all learn a page from that, like to that moment where you're walking and you're feeling, Baddie, and like, how did you get to that moment?
Mm-hmm.
They say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I was faking every nice comment I said to myself with like tears coming down my eyes. Like, I can't believe I'm looking at myself like this and having to say I am beautiful and I don't feel beautiful at all. And then it's like one day it just shifted. And it was like, I actually think I've said it enough where I actually believe it. And my beauty is I feel like as women, we're taught that beauty lies in our breasts and our butts. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that there's so much more about me that makes me beautiful than just that, it was a lot easier to accept.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that too.
That's good.
Yeah. I think for me,
I agree with you.
Go ahead, Ginny.
I agree with you, Naya, as far as gaining the self-confidence. There was a lot of fake it at the beginning, like
I'm still faking
it. Not necessarily like in a toxic way, but in some days, I still have to fake it. It's not always unicorns and roses over here, as much as I'd like it to be. for me, also, I chose to be really visible on social media, and that's not necessarily for everybody, but part of that helped me heal as well, because, you know, I'm not going to lie, external validation is pretty great, you know, and meeting other women and other people in the breast cancer community and being able to meet other flatties that way as well has really helped my own self-confidence and self-esteem as well. So there was a little bit of that fake it in the beginning, and I do still do that sometimes a little bit now, but it's a lot easier now, and I really am mentally and, you know, just in a better place now than I was. Even before the cancer diagnosis, I'm happier with my body now than I was before.
Yeah. And Ginny, you're married, right? You're in a relationship.
Yeah, I'm married. And I will say that my decision as far as reconstruction and my mental health and well-being, it may be different if I were single. I may feel differently. I have a lot of single friends, and I've watched them really struggle with life after cancer, and dating and sex and everything in general. So I am fortunate that I've got a husband that he loves all of this. You know,
I have a question.
What's not to love, Ginny?
I know.
It's really important to highlight that by like just this conversation, right, can empower other people into that. It's so lonely. This process is so lonely, and the decision making seems so lonely, because when you're at the doctor by yourself. You're representing yourself, and you don't get to necessarily see or hear these other stories. But when you find out that you're not the only person living on this earth without nipples, or you're not the only person living on this earth without breasts, like, it makes you feel better in a way, right? To not be alone out there. I think that, so a conversation like this just is so valuable. And I don't know why doctors like don't give all the options, and also recommend like talk to your support groups about it. You know,
and your therapist.
Yeah, you know, one. Like talk to someone about it, and maybe not like my spouse might be the same for you, Ginny. Is they're just like, whatever you want, like just, you know, you take care of yourself. Like I'm fine either way, and he was great about it. But, you know, sometimes I kind of felt like he's not the right person to be talking to about it, because he has biases, and, you know, part of the problem is wondering if he would like it. So his 2 cents might not be what I needed, but getting empowerment for other women made me decide, like, well, I can explore my options. I'll start with this and go to this and then go to this. And sometimes that decision can be made for you at the end by yourself, but just having those conversations are so useful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm single, and I'm at that point where I'm like you, Naya, you was like, I'm just strutting my stuff now because I done gained my weight, and I'm like, you can't tell me nothing. I'm fabulous, okay? Flat and fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm talking to like a guy right now, and he's like, I don't care about, you know, I'm not a boob guy anyway. But then I've met guys in the past, and that was the first thing I said. I'm like, hey, you know, I had breast cancer. I'm going through my treatments at the time. I was in radiation or just finished chemo. And I was like, I got to either have surgery and I'm staying flat, or I already had surgery and I'm flat. So they would be like, you don't have no breasts? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you still hot? And I'm like,
so
that external validation. Yeah.
Like, so that's all I needed.
Like, right off. So you basically, you told him like right after that. Because it was crazy, because a guy I was talking to for a little while, he didn't know until he was on my social media, because I'm very like, hey, it's me. Like, I show pictures when I lost some of my hair, you know, and he was just like, you know, you're very beautiful, Bob. And I was like, thank you. But like, you know, like I said, I never had hair anyway, honey. My hair has been every color. I didn't took it off and all that kind of stuff. But when I did, he did ask me about my boobs, because I had a conversation. No, I had something on Facebook or something where I was talking about my lonely wonder over here. She got all kind of names. But he asked me, and to get his response, was like, I would have never known. He was like, but it's your confidence and your ability to even like believe in yourself. He's like, I would have never even known. He was like, and just talking to you, for me, it really doesn't even matter. So you having that confidence to be like, oh, this is me, you take it or leave it, can actually change the mindset or spark something in others that you didn't even realize,
Right.
So yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And it's weird that a conversation with your plastic surgeon can also sometimes be stirs up your value too, right? Because sometimes they make you feel bad about how you look or the options that you're choosing. Not everyone has a really good plastic surgeon experience. And you guys might know this. Like, you guys know Mariah Crenshaw. She's a Baddie ambassador. I think she is now. She might be a new one. But she was on the podcast that I host, and she was talking about how she wanted a DEEP, but because of her BMI, they wouldn't allow her to do her DEEP, so they have to do either a lap or the leg thigh. I don't know what's the other one called, Ginny? Lap or
the traps.
Yeah. Anyways, and people don't realize that sometimes, like, you have a decision made and you're really confident about that, and then you show up to your plastic surgeon's office and they're like, no, you're either too thin to get it or you're too big to get it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies done on it where people, like, the BMI is a risk just in general for surgery, but there's studies showing that the BMI, especially if you're high on the BMI scale, I guess, and I don't think many doctors use it anymore, but I think surgeons do, because they'll say that they will recommend that you don't do surgery because of what recovery might look like. But technically, people who are bigger can have the DEEP flap, and I could see, I'm a bigger person. That's why it was appealing for me. It's like, just snatch me up in the waist, and I'll be good. But I didn't realize, like, people were getting turned away from the procedure because they were too heavy. And it didn't really make sense to me, but I started reading about it, and it's like, doctors will turn you away because you're too high of a risk for surgery because of your BMI, or that's what they say. I don't know how true that is. Maybe they don't want the liability, but technically, I read a study that said that it doesn't matter where you are at the BMI scale. If you have the tissue to give, then you should be able to have a successful DEEP flap.
I've heard that too, but that's also similar to how it is with like flat closure, how some women have the issue where the surgeon is telling them that because their BMI is too high, they can't give them an aesthetic flat closure, which is like completely flat. There's no ears or anything, no extra skin left over, and they're left feeling like confused and like, how are you? So they look at someone else and they're like, well, you have the same, like, we're about the same size and you have aesthetic flat closure, but my doctor told me I couldn't get it. It's like, I don't know. I didn't actually get to speak to a plastic surgeon. All I spoke to was my breast surgeon. I just made my decisions through her. She gave me every surgery that I can get. She told me that if I wanted to get the DEEP flap, they was probably gonna have to take fat from somewhere else because I had a lot of extra muscle from me having twins. So it looked like it was fat, but it wasn't actually fat. So they would have to actually take fat from another part of my body if I wanted to do that. And then she gave me the flat closure, and she was like, I'll close you up and keep you flat where you don't have anything in implants. So I think every surgeon is different. And I just hate that you get some surgeons that they don't have the best bedside manners at all.
They need to take sensitivity, some kind of sensitivity training, because like I've come across even oncologists, one that I even had to fire because he gonna tell me, I was like, this medicine, I'm telling you, like, this medicine is not, if I continue to take it, I think I'm gonna die. He told me I'm gonna be all right, and that's it. That's why you fired.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that comes with a lot of issues with you being a Black and brown person, because you know they hold us to a different stamina. They put us up here when it comes to the threshold of pain and a lot of other things versus non-people of color.
And Ginny and Tan, you probably hear a lot about like these horror stories about people who want to go in for flat closure, but they have like leftover skin because their doctors are just leaving it there for just in case they change their mind, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard so many stories about that where they've requested flat closure.
There are doctors, I've had women reach out to me and tell them that their doctors have refused to give them flat closure because it would be mentally harmful to them to not have reconstruction. The paternal attitude around, especially when you're a younger woman, that some of these doctors have is absolutely infuriating. And there are cases where women think that they're going to go in and get flat closure, and they come out of surgery and they got these dog ears and this weird extra skin because the doctor's like, I know better than you, honey.
Yes.
It's the same case, women that try to get, a hysterectomy or get their tubes tied or whatever. And the doctors are like, no, honey, I know better than you do about what you should get.
And I think social just really made people more aware that this is an option. So doctors are taking it more seriously. But it was like no one was ever doing flat closures. And if they did, they would leave those dog ears just in case a woman would change their mind. And it's like, my mind's made up, and then it's like you have to go back to another surgery on top of that.
Yeah.
And if you do want it closed.
Women don't realize that even if you do have the aesthetic flat closures, which my doctor said you want to be like a baby chest. And I'm like, yes, I want a baby chest. I don't want nothing. Just, there. You can actually go reverse from that too. You can go back and get the surgery if you want to get flap surgery later in life. After you get an aesthetic flat closure, you can. So doctors just try to make it seem like you can't go back from that surgery. You can always go back from anything. So that, not a hysterectomy, but from that. But you can definitely go back from the aesthetic flat closure into a flap reconstruction anytime. Because my doctor, every time I see her, every 6 months, she's like, you still want to stay flat, or you want to go ahead and talk to the surgeon? I'm like, let's stay flat for now.
Well, when it comes to, all of these things are, they're not critical to our health. I mean, to our mental health, but on the physical health, like any of these options are fine options. It's just a preference. And I feel like at that time, like your plastic surgeon, like I really like my plastic surgeon, like they need to be your hype person, your hype man. If you choose to get a flat closure, they should be telling you how beautiful it is, how simple the procedure is, and they can make you look bomb. If you want to get implants, they can, tell you, they should be hyping up whatever decision you're making and not saying, well, maybe you want to go back to this. Because you know what, Tan, you're right, that they can go back to giving you expanders, swapping some tissue over. Like, it's not the end all once you make one decision. And I hate that plastic surgeons and doctors and surgeons in general, like they try to make those decisions for you or whatever the status quo is. And it's just like, they should be hyping you up every time you go in their office, saying, like, validating the decision that you made, not what they made.
And Ebony touched on a good point. If there's any hesitation from one of our surgeons, we should immediately fire them.
I'm quick to fire, honey.
Yeah.
Out of here.
And I mean, to that point, like, I feel like a lot of women feel really rushed. And even I felt really rushed at the beginning. And I'm glad that even speaking with the plastic surgeon, he was, he said, it's a lot right now. And what I would really recommend is that you go through treatment and you get healthy, like, as healthy as you can be, right? You just had cancer or whatever, and then make a decision after that, because there's so many other things that are going on all at once. And that was ultimately what I ended up deciding to do. He wouldn't have done surgery then anyway. It was complicated, but it worked out well for me that I had that time. And I talked to other women who they felt really rushed at the beginning, and they're not necessarily happy with the results that they have now, right? Or they didn't understand that there were going to be multiple surgeries, right? Even if you go straight to implants, right? You might need some fat transfer, or you might decide you want to go under the muscle versus over the muscle at some point in time. There's a million different things around reconstruction.
Don't realize about it. Sometimes your body may reject certain surgeries as well, so then you have the issue as well.
That was something that I thought about, because I remember my cousin's friend, she didn't go through any kind of cancer or anything, but she wanted implants, and her body rejected it so bad that she ended up having to even go flat. You know what I mean? Like she had all kinds of stuff that was going on, but it started because her body rejected the implants. So I thought about that too. I was like, you know what? I've been sick enough. And being stage 4, you know what I'm saying? You have your days, and you don't ever know how the medicine is going to be, what the medicine is going to do. So I don't want to go through something that's going to reject my body and then have to go through something totally different. So yeah, I've heard that on more than one occasion.
Did any of you ladies have the option to even get to save your nipple? Because you can also have that option as well. You can save your nipple or nipples.
I didn't have that option.
Okay.
My boobs were just way too big at the time. They're like, that's unsavable. But I think Jenny's right. She makes such a great point that we all feel so rushed to make those decisions. And I get it from the doctor's perspective. If you're having a lumpectomy and a mastectomy at the time, it's a good time to maybe try to do something because you're already under surgery, all those things. But it's not going to be the end all if you don't wait. And it's not going to fix everything. It's not going to fix our societal standards of what we should look like all the time. It's like we want to make the perfect decision to go and to do that. But at the same time, it's not going to fix every insecurity you have and all of these other issues that we're already dealing with as women. Just being women alone, not on top of having breast cancer. So I think it's to really put into perspective of the decision you're making. Does that have to be quick, and it's not going to fix all of your insecurities? Obviously, it can help with some things, but I just felt like I was relying on that to fix, especially at the beginning. Like, it's going to make me feel better about my body. Not having breasts anymore is going to make me feel, disconnected from cancer. I want all the breasts gone because I don't want the cancer. But then you start moving back into your normal life and outside of Cancerville, of being under a constant supervised under your physicians, that it's like, oh, it didn't fix all my insecurities. It didn't fix how I feel about myself. It didn't fix having cancer. So I like what Ginny's saying about taking your time to make those decisions.
Yeah.
You can really what other advice would you guys give survivors and thrivers as they're trying to make a decision for what reconstruction option works best for them?
I would say, I think one of the things is there has to be a point where you cut the noise and you just listen to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because we all know that when we got breast cancer, everyone had a point of view about the decisions you were going to make, the treatments you were choosing. Everybody was an expert, right? And they loved you and they came from a place of love, but it's overwhelming. So I would say, at some point, cut the noise and trust your gut.
I like that. I would just expand on that. Just if there's one way you're leaning towards, just ask more about it and find people who have it, and ask them to share their story about what made them go that route. If you need more validation to feel like that's the way you want to go.
Yeah. I would just say take your time and do your research. Definitely do your research. Ask around. Like Natalia said, ask around. You need to do that. Find you a support group. There's a million different support groups out here on Facebook, Instagram. There's women isn't just the flat community. You got groups that are just for the flat community. You got groups that's just for implants. Like find you go through all the groups and ask your questions in there. And yeah, and for the Breast of Us, you can go on there for the Breast of Us, and you can so many resources. We have women in all different types of reconstruction, so you definitely need to do that.
Well, just think about the campaign that was led where everyone, there were so many people showing what their reconstruction looked like. I know one of the platforms for the Breast of Us was that when people started looking and Googling for what someone would look like with reconstruction, they were unable to find people with that type of reconstruction. It's the
Naked Truth Project.
The Naked Truth Project, right? And you're able to see so many beautiful people look so different and kind of give you a reference of what that could look like. So the work you guys are doing it's great and it's important.
Yeah, and it's given like younger. So we have that normally when we see women who's been diagnosed with breast cancer, we normally see like the older women, and they're not really women of color. So now this is giving us a platform for the Breast of Us, giving us a platform for young women of color, and we're younger. Like we're between like the 20s and 40s age range, and you're able to see women who actually look like you, who are going through the same things, struggling with everything that you're struggling with. They may be, hey, I'm one of the first Black flatties, and then we have Ginny, who's a flatty as well, and then we have Naya, who's a uni, and then we have Natasha. She's without lumpectomy. So we have so many different varieties out there. So it's always easy to just find someone, piggyback off of them, and ask and reach out, because we're all going through the same things, similar to you, if not the same.
Right.
I'm curious to know, would y'all all make the same decision again?
I would, honestly. At this point in my life, I would. Now, if I didn't have children, I wouldn't. I'm only making my decision based on me having children right now and me being a single mom. But if I was married and didn't have kids, or I was married with my kids, I probably would have went and got my flap surgery. I would still never have gotten implants, because I've heard about the implant syndrome and I'm too afraid of that. So
I would make the same choice. I'm happy with the choice that I made, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
But having no breasts, it does definitely have its thing. I think it's more of like other body image issues for me that's going into, like, because when you flat, you don't have anything to like distract you from your belly. And right now I got the Buddha belly, and I'm not thinking it too much. So I think that's what's going into me. I would change my mind if things were different in my life. But
I think I would have, I don't look back very often and think about rerouting things. Obviously, I would, if I could go back, I would like to not get cancer. I'm not one of those people that feel like cancer is a blessing or anything like that. Ultimately, I would want to rewind time and not get cancer. But I am happy with the deep flap. It has given me a confidence that I haven't felt in a while. I've been in cancer land, 17, 18, 19, 22, 22, counting with my fingers. But I've been for 5 years now, and it's not getting better, right? The prognosis for MBC isn't a cure or to be healed. So I think that it was a nice, like, kind of way to revive me when I was kind of in a lull and feel good about my body. But if Tan, if this helps at all, I also have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and I went through the surgery. But I had if you have support to help you watch the kids, like I had to have a lot of support to help me with the first probably 2 weeks. After that, you just kind of feel stiff and you're moving around. But yeah, it's no joke, that's for sure. But I think I would make the same decision.
I I will also make the same decision. I was thinking about what Jenny said about that external validation. And I started modeling with Anna Ono. And the way Dana, like, gassed me up, and she was like, you're a unicorn. Like, you look so great. Like, that's what I needed. And I actually love my body way more now than I did before cancer.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. Natasha said she's having some technical difficulties, but she also said that she thinks she would stay the same. So I'm always curious about the lumpectomies, just whether because like you hear a lot of people who get lumpectomies and they go back for reconstruction or end up doing both. But I love when people like are happy with the decisions that they make, or they don't feel forced.
Yeah.
I think that's how you're going to get the happiest decision, if you're not forced into one.
Yeah. Well, being one who hasn't made a decision quite yet, because there is a lot of decisions on the table. I've started journaling, so I could go back and read, like, what was I feeling in the moment? What was I feeling when I heard about this particular procedure? How does that make me feel? And then sit in time, and because I feel like I got time. As long as I'm breathing, I got time. So, I just know when I make the decision, I have to make it for what's best for me. And, I got in-house hype men, because my kids will hype me up. I got my own personal hype team, all four of my babies.
The kids know what to do.
Yeah.
Hey, for real, like my son, he'd be like, "You're so beautiful, Mom." I'm like, you know what?
It's always the boys. It's always the boys. They love their mamas.
Mine's
Yes,
my
they
daughter.
do.
She'll just be like, "Mom, your boobs are beautiful, even though you don't have nipples." I'm like, "Thanks, babe." And I have to try to explain to her that her boobs aren't going to look like mine. Like, yours are going to have nipples. Like, like
I have three girls, and two of my daughters they were me pre-cancer, so they were just like, "Mom, you can have some of ours." I was like, "Thanks, but I don't think that's how it works." Like, they was like, "But if we could share, we would." I was like, "Yeah, because y'all definitely got enough." But I know. I pray about it a lot. And I'm just like, God, just lead me to the right decision. If no boobs is the right decision, to help me to understand and be okay with that. If not implants, because Lord, we know them ain't that. But if it's deep flap or whatever it may be, just help me to be okay with it. So now it's just like I'm on the process of like soul searching again. To really feel like what's the best option for me at this point in my life, because I'm 40 years old, so it's just like I don't plan on having no more babies. I got 4, so yeah.
I think a part of that soul searching is like grieving our own bodies, right? And what we used to, I hope, like, at least, and accept. And so I want to know, what do you guys do now to like celebrate your new bodies and find acceptance with them?
That's a really good question. I feel like I personally still very much struggle with the weight gaining and all of that after treatment. And so that's one of the reasons, Naya, why I asked you earlier. And I love this idea of like just fake it till you make it, right? And just like finding different things, maybe little moments of joy that make you think about things differently, And I also feel like by being in like sisterhoods, like what we're doing right now with For the Rest of Us, like seeing other women be like loving themselves and loving their body and loving it, that in itself, at least for me, is super inspiring, because I'm like, oh my God, if they, like they're doing it, I can do that too. I can feel that way too. And so I feel like the things that I do is that I'm surrounding myself with amazing, courageous women who are like in that journey of loving themselves and loving their body and loving who they are. And so that I feel like, to me, is the most inspiring part, because of how much I still am so uncomfortable with my body.
I think from like a metastatic perspective, and Ebony, you can tell me if you feel the same, but I'm at the point where it's like, I just want to live the way I want to live. So if having a snatched waist is what I wanted, then that's what I went out and got. If now I want to show parts of my body that I was uncomfortable showing, but I always wanted to wear the crop tops, or I always wanted to do this, I'm kind of putting aside my that self-awareness and saying, that side of me needs to scoot over, because this is the only time I'm going to be able to do it. So I'm not waiting for any more weight loss. I'm not waiting for something to be tan or for the right clothes or any of those things. It's like, this is the time I got to shine now. And it might be cut short because of MBC. So I'm not going to give myself excuses to put it on to the other side to do it later. I have to do those things now. It's not something I can wait for. So, you're reminded of that every time you progress, right? That one progression means you're one treatment short of your life, because you're out of that option of treatment again. So it's like, I'm not going to wait around and wait until I have the perfect body or I have this and that. I'm just going to do what I can now to make myself feel better. Because if not, it's exhausting waiting, especially when you can do it now. It's just so exhausting. And now I feel like it's time wasted if I'm not doing those things that make me happy.
Yeah, it's live now. Live now. Do what you every day is a celebration. Every day that I wake up, every moment that I get to spend with my kids, I am a shoe fanatic, a high heel fanatic at that. So part of those little wins and stuff, it's like, you know what? I see the shoe, I buy it.
Yes.
Now, granted, my closet doesn't like it, but I don't care what the closet likes. But hey, I buy the shoe, and I can tell you, this shoe was when I got this report. This shoe was when I got that report. This shoe was just because. But if anything, if I didn't have NBC, it would be, if anything, cancer alone has taught me, live life to the fullest. Live, because you never know when you're going to have a dramatic change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what, for some it's a heart attack. Just so happened for us, it has been cancer. But it's live life to the fullest. You get one life to live. It ain't like you live, you die, you come back. You know what I'm saying? I'm only gonna be Ebony this one time. So it's live it to the highest and the fullest. And whatever I want to do, I do it.
Yeah. I think piggybacking off of what you said, Ebony, I didn't start living my life to the fullest, honestly, until when we went on a retreat. When I met you ladies in person for the for the Breast of Us retreat in May, I was like, I don't know, I'm just going at this. I'm just, taking every day at a time, because, this hormone medication I'm on has me going through it in regards to like pain and all the other side effects, nausea and everything. And then one of my best friends, she was like, why don't you buy you some lingerie, because you're feeling a little down about yourself. You don't have anybody to put it on for. Just put it on for yourself and just walk in the mirror. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I did. And honestly, that made me feel a lot better about myself. I already had like the makeup thing I'm doing, but just me looking at myself like in lingerie, I was like, I look pretty sexy. It made me feel good about myself. So I'm like, I think I'm going to start doing more of that, just so I can just, start, loving myself a little bit more, because I'm still, again, I'm at that. I'm only 1 year into my little survivorship, so I'm still on my journey on loving myself.
And I would say, like, cut things out that don't make you happy.
Yeah.
I think with my body image, a lot of it was social media is obviously so influential that I was just keeping my eye on things on people that didn't look like me.
Yeah.
And just really, gone at them and wanting to be them. But then I started eliminating those things on social and admiring bodies that looked more like me. And that really changed my perspectives. Like, I'm never going to be this size, or I'm never going to look like this. And I'm going to have to be okay with that. It's not something I want to strive for anymore. But then I see people with confidence that just, like, they're plus size people, they're tall people, they might people with short hair, right? Or people rocking their bald heads. Like, no more, I'm not going to try to look at having mermaid hair anymore unless I wear my wig, or doing those things. I'm going to cut that stuff out that makes me feel shitty about myself. Yeah. And I think, like, that's part of living life to the fullest, because it's exhausting to tell people, like, when you're having a bad day that you just want to stay in bed, and then have my mom saying, like, you just need to be appreciative every day. It's like, I am, but I'm going to have bad days too. And I'm going to mix those in. But also it's like, I'm going to cut things out that I know I can cut out. I can't cut out some bad things that are happening in my life, in my house, in my country. But what I can cut in or put in is the things that I choose, either through my phone, through my computer, the relationships I have. Those are the things I can choose.
Yes.
And so
I am definitely on that.
So mine is just like, you know what? Social media is so influential, and there's something out there for everyone. I'm just going to start admiring full body women all the time and cut out, no shade to anyone else who has, like, an amazing body, but, like, I can't look like you. And I need to put things in my life that make me feel connected with other people and feel beautiful.
Right. Like, shout out to Ginny, because let me tell you, it was like, I saw one of her videos first when I first joined For the Rest of Us. And just looking at her videos made me even consider being flat. Okay. Because the confidence that she walks around with, hey, I'm like, you know what? Hey, you know what? I'm still gonna be beautiful. But you just don't realize, like, your confidence. And just, I was in chemo one day and almost got put out because it was something that she did. And I was in there cracking up. But it was just to see somebody who knows the journey and how she's just loving herself and loving life. I was like, you know what? Okay. This is good. This is good. So yeah,
this is how I cope. I make people laugh. I walk around topless a lot, and I dance even though I have no sense of rhythm. Like, these are just ways that I cope with everything,
I love you, Ginny. Like, you are a whole vibe.
Yes.
You are a whole vibe. Like, you lit all the time, and I love it.
No, she is.
There's an envy of the freedom that you're living. Do you know what I mean? I wish I wasn't so subconscious. Like, for a brown person, like, I have no rhythm, like, for growing up with Latin people around my whole life, where dancing's a thing people do in their backyard when they just have a barbecue. Like, I can't dance for shit. But I want to, and I want to groove. And then I look at Ginny, not to say that you can't dance, because I think you do have the moves. But you live with a certain freedom that gives no fucks. Sorry about my language. But do you know what I mean? You're, like, flipping off the world, and you're like, this is how I feel, and this is how I'm going to move. And this is how I'm going to express myself. And it's so nice to see that, it's very inspiring.
It's nice to not give any fucks anymore. And I think that comes from a combination of age. They say when women hit their 40s, you really just don't give a fuck about.
You sure do.
Not what other people think about you, though. Like, I just don't care anymore. Plus there's breast cancer, right? Like, I'm never going to look like normal. I'm never going to have a normal body. Even if I did decide to have reconstruction, I've been through all of this crap. We've all been through this crap. So why even try to go there is kind of the way that I've looked at it, right? And I just celebrate, well, this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is part of my advocacy, what I do. I make people laugh. I make people look at me because I do get good feedback from that. And other people that see that, yes, you can be flat and happy. Not to say, again, I do have my issues. I take antidepressants just like everybody else, you know. But yeah, I mean, circling back to, I think what was the original question was like how you love your body and how you love yourself is social media is part of that for me, and having that freedom and not giving a lot of fucks is a lot of how I cope, you know, and walking around half naked a lot. It's kind of freeing. Although my kid is old enough now that I'm like, I can't really, you know, even though there's nothing there, I don't, you know, kids are embarrassed so easily.
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm like, okay, since we're flat sisters, I'm like, I kind of just know, you know, walk around with no shirts sometimes every day. Do your kids? I'll be like, my kids, do you guys feel weird that I don't have a shirt on? Like, should I throw one on?
I don't know if he even... Yeah, I don't know how much he notices anymore. Like, I would never do it when his friends are over. Like, I'm not going to be that mom, right? But like, if I'm just getting out of the shower or whatever, and because I've thought about it. Like, we're trying to put the I'm like, why am I trying to? That's stupid.
Exactly. Just put it now.
Wait, you know?
You know what? My family always thinks like I'm the naked family because, you know, my kids are little. They're 4 and 6. But I just think like no one cares if my husband's walking out in his like boxer briefs. He's, you know, he's not wearing a top or a bottom, or he wears a bottom, but he's not wearing a top or pants, you know. It's like, why can't I walk around my house like that? That's not fair. And normalize it to my own kids, you know, like, because my kid, my daughter, she'll shower with me every once in a while, and I don't want it to be a thing where she's really subconscious about her body. And like, because I was that kid growing up where like I didn't want to dress in front of my friends. I always went to a dressing room. I never shared a dressing room with anyone. And you know how you had girlfriends that would like get dressed in front of each other, and it'd be like, that wasn't me. So I just want her to be more comfortable with her body, and it makes me more comfortable with my body if I'm able to express myself that way. I don't know, Ginny, if you found like more comfortable, like shirts off. Awesome.
I do. Look, if I'm comfortable within my house, like I feel weird if it's like my niece or my nephew or my sister over here. I'll be like, I don't know.
The boundaries up. Yeah, sure.
But my kids be like, okay, I'm gonna rub your chest, and I'm like, oh, okay.
My kids know if you come on this side of the house, you don't know what you go get. Don't be perfectly honest. Right before we came on is when I put the shirt on. I was in here watching the shy, shirtless, just, you know, because I get hot.
It's hot.
The hot flash is real.
Yeah. My children are the ones who taught me to be okay being naked, because they run around the house naked, and I just kept looking at them like, why can't I be that free? You know, I don't need to be fully naked, but I'm okay like with my chest out and them seeing that.
Yeah, my flashes ain't no joke. Oh my gosh. And I live in the valley. I live in California, but I live in the San Fernando Valley. Right now it's almost like 107. So yeah, no, they know you come on this side, mommy might not have no clothes on. And just because the shower went off, you might want to give me some minutes, because I'm running through here. My son, he makes an announcement. I'm coming through the door, Mom. I'm like, okay. The girls are just like, Mom, we know. We changed your bandage. We know you're not going to have on any clothes. But it is true. Like, my girls, now granted, my son, he stays on one side of the house. But my girls, they're comfortable with it. Just because just being comfortable, seeing me being topless, my girls are now just like, you know what? I feel it's taught them self-consciously to be okay with their body. You know what I mean? So it's even helped them like, hey, you know, that, and they be like, Mom, you see this? And then especially like on the first, they're like, okay, we're feeling it on the first. So like, come look, and they just come, no shirt on, no nothing. But yeah, they know they come on this side of the house. You don't know what you're going to get. Mom might have a shirt on. Then again, she might not. Because she's hot.
Literally and, figuratively and physically, you're hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any kids yet. I think one of the things that I love with what I'm hearing you guys say is that every moment is an opportunity for advocacy, and advocacy in all the ways, right? And so advocacy with your kids, advocacy with your partner and your family, and like that's a moment of advocacy. It's not just the big public moments, it's those moments when you're with your kids and you're showing them how normal that is. And so I commend you all for that.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you guys tell us exactly how we tell the audience how they can connect with you, like on social media? Let's start with you, Naya.
At Naya's Purpose, NIYA.
Okay. And Natasha?
Yeah, mine is it's at Gitana 0930. It's GITANA 0930.
Okay. Ebony?
All right, guys. Any of my social media is Ms. and it's MZ Hustle and Heels. And Ms. Hustle and Heels. That's how you can find me on all social media.
Okay. And Natalia?
I mostly just do Instagram, and my handle is at La Vida Natalia, and there's 2 underscores between La and then underscore Vida underscore Natalia. And then I'm also on a podcast. I'm a co-host and senior producer for our NBC Live. So it's not just for NBC people, but there's a lot of NBC information. Talk about research, and we talk to people who have NBC. And like Marissa has been on our podcast before too. So we love sharing information, and I love listening to this podcast. In fact, it's always fun and chill. So that's where you can find me.
Yes. Nice. And OG Ginny.
Hi. So you can find me on Instagram at Shudlucky, SHUDLUCKY, Shudlucky.
Okay. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Tan Michelle. It's TAN.MICHELL3, the number 3. And yeah. You can also find, I have another one. If you guys are into makeup, you guys can follow my Beat by Moi IG account as well. And then you can follow the same pages on Facebook as well. And we want to thank all our listeners for tuning in, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Baddie to Baddie on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. And thank you.
This is another Baddie creation brought to you by For the Rest of Us. Don't forget to subscribe to Baddie wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at For the Breast of Us, on Twitter at The Breast of Us, and check us out online at breastofus.com. Thanks for listening.